Hello, everyone. Hope everybody is doing well. Now, to those of you who live in the Valley, or perhaps could be anywhere in the world, I'm sure many of you have heard in the last several months about the fact that, well, tourism, in terms of attendance, visitation, volume, whatever you want to look at it, has been down significantly.
According to the latest executive summary from the Las Vegas Visitors and Convention Authority, our year-over-year visitor numbers down 4.4% in October.
A lot of people have been sounding the alarms of blatant anti-consumer practices and escalating price points. I calculated that a similar trip in 2018 would have cost around $468.04.
Who continue to raise concerns about price gouging and whether high fees are driving people away.
When you have these resort fees, especially parking fees, that really does make people not enthusiastic about ever visiting. It hits their breaking point. This has resulted recently for Cortez Masto, the U.S. Senator, along with the Culinary Union, to talk about and decry about how the recent administration's efforts has had a significant downward impact on tourism. A lot of people are uncertain. Certainly, many people might argue that this has resulted an effect on the housing market in terms of more foreclosures, more listings in the markets, declining rents, and so forth. However, the reality that's what's really happening is that people who bring this issue up often fail to discuss about other factors coming into consideration. Now, one of the things that we want to talk about is what are some hidden truths that the media doesn't talk about a lot, or the fact that they're refusing to somehow cover. As you can see behind me, many of the properties you see are owned by Caesars Entertainment, and they have accumulated large amounts of debt. Increasingly, a lot of these properties, whether they're Caesars or MGM, they're owned a lot by these private equity firms, which, as you know, many of them are liable to huge amounts of debt. Many have told me that these increasing liabilities have pressured these corporations to increase their fees and services. Now, let's get to real part of the surface about what's really going on. Truly, why we're seeing the decline that's happening now. The obvious factor, as we know, is the high costs. Because if that really was not the case, then why is it that if you look at Fremont Street, Laughlin, and Reno, they're not suffering to the same extent as they are in the Las Vegas Strip? This also brings me to my other point, which hardly anybody is talking about. It's a result of lack of competition. The thing is that when you have two companies that run so much of the Las Vegas Strip, the vast majority of the properties, you have a lack of competition, which what people need to be talking about is if, well, the prices are so high, given the fact that we have resort fees, parking fees, all these other hidden costs that are appearing all over social media. The question is why can't somebody ever build a new hotel to offer lower prices and better services? I'm going to get more into that later on. But let's look at the statistics. When anybody ever complains about it's the current administration's fault, mainly to blame, show them some statistics, which I'm going to show you some statistics that I got from the Las Vegas Convention Visitors Authority, as well as recently posted by Congresswoman Susie Lee, who covers this district. You see, visitation volume to Las Vegas peaked in 2016. What happened in 2016? As you know, MGM Resorts started to charge for parking. That was really, for a lot of people, the final draw that caught a lot of people's attention and made people want to come here less often. It's also important to know that visitor volume, as of now, is barely above 2007 levels. You see, the fact of the matter is we saw a boom in visitation from the late 1980s, starting with the opening of the Mirage, all the way
to the early stages of the late 2000s financial crisis. But it's not just the high cost. You see, as you understand, that a lot of people, especially here in this country, are being strangled with housing costs, increasing numbers of foreclosures, difficulty paying their insurance, a lot of different factors. Whether you look at auto payments that are increasingly delinquent, eviction moratoriums are running out, student loans are now back into fruition, credit cards, people are being maxed out, because let's just be honest, without all these credit cards and everything, where do you think people are getting the money to spend? Considering the fact that a lot of people, I believe majority of the population, don't even have $500 to even cover an emergency. As you know, Las Vegas, especially the Strip, has been increasingly catering to the top 10%. It's been reported that they are now about 50% of the consumer spending. We have become increasingly more of a sports, event, celebrity, convention destination, increasingly focusing on nightlife in the last 30 years. Well, with those kinds of people, and given the high level of obsession with these kinds of figures and activities, these people certainly know that they can nickel dime you like there's no tomorrow, because that's what people do when people kind of go to these kinds of events. Now, don't get me wrong. It is true that the recent tariffs and the relations with Canada have had an effect with the tourism market. I'm not denying that. And there are fewer foreigners who are coming here. But to solely blame these issues about why the tourism market is coming down isn't telling you the whole story. The fact of the matter is that the number of hotel rooms that have been built in the Las Vegas Valley in the last 15 years is pretty pale and dire compared to the previous 15 years that we've built, or I guess you can say 20 years, from 1989 all the way to 2010. From that period, we built far more hotel rooms than we did since the financial crisis that occurred. So this lets you know everything that's going on. There is not enough competition. When there's fewer hotel rooms and there's fewer competitors, few companies run everything, there's less of a desire to lower prices and bring better deals for people. Keep in mind. This is why, when you go back in history class, as a matter of fact, we had regulations such as the Sherman Antitrust Act. The list goes on. But today, a lot of these policies are not being enforced. And as a matter of fact, policies, you might argue, are discouraging actually the opposite. You know, it wasn't too long ago where there were regulations that prevented Wall Street corporate financialization takeover of these major resort operations. Now, let's not forget the elephant in the room, the one who is truly responsible the most for the decline. And that is the former CEO of MGM Resorts, James Murren.
Laws. How easy is it to change a law in New York State? I don't know. But when you're the largest employer and the largest taxpayer in the state of Nevada, we can get laws changed pretty quickly.
He ran MGM Resorts from around 2008 all the way to, what a coincidence, February of 2020. He's very controversial. He brought up the paid parking in 2016. He brought up resort fees last time I checked. His handling of the disaster that happened in 2017, not to mention, of course, he resigned in February of 2020 and became part of the Governor Sisolak's COVID task force. I can't really find out any other individual who has more of an impact, in many cases negative, to Las Vegas, particularly the Strip, than Mr. Murren. I think there should be statues of him in the future showing of what he has really, really done. Now, of course, it's not all that horrible. There are still some decent deals out there. There are some times where you can get shows that are discounted about 40%. That happened to me when I went to see the Cirque du Soleil show at the Bellagio about 2 months ago. There are some discounts and there are some coupons that are out there once in a while. As you know, one hotel in the north end of the Strip, Sahara, has actually brought in deals where they give you food and beverage credit, they comp your resort fees. And as it's just been reported that Caesars has given, well, some freebies to locals, discounts on restaurants, and the list goes on. The LVCVA did some kind of promotion to many different hotels. Not to mention that there are still new hotel projects that are proposed or actually under construction. We'll see how the Hard Rock, which replaced the Mirage, we'll see how that turns out. Of course, there are many that are proposed and did get approved. However, the problem is many of these projects are really all about talk and not a lot of action. Because let's just be honest, there's a lot of properties that are currently going through a revision phase, but unfortunately after several years, they have not come to fruition. And here's another thing. It's kind of interesting how the politicians claim, especially that they want to get rid of Wall Street ownership of single-family homes. But are these politicians really about you? Do they really want to get rid of Wall Street ownership of these hotel strip properties? Think about it. Why don't they ever introduce laws to prevent that from actually happening? This really tells you that the politicians, especially unions like Culinary, you see who they truly work for. It's every passing year showing that they're increasingly in bed with together. And now you see the fate of the reality that we are in right now. So do everything you can to spread this video to make sure that you allow more competition, build more hotels to make sure that we have competition and we can have better prices for years and generations to come. It's pretty dark and dismal that I wasn't able to experience the benefits of my parents and grandparents did coming here to the Las Vegas Strip. But hey, at least I got to see Wayne Newton last week. Thank you so much. Please share and spread this video.